Yamunatiravanachari Radhamadhava Kunjavihari Jaya Radhamadhava Kunjavihari Jaya Radhamadhava Kunjavihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadhari Yasoyanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasoyanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radhamadhava Kunjavihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Astottara Srimad ISKCON Founder Acharya's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Namacharya Srila Hridas Thakur Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Daivim Saraswati Vyasa Tachor Jayamudirayat Nasta Preshu Abhideshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, Text 48, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Sadhryaṅ niyamya yatayo yama-karta-hetim. Sadhryaṅ niyamya yatayo yama-karta-hetim. Jahyuḥ svarāḍ nipāna-khanitram indraḥ. sadhryaṅ niyamya yatayo yama-karta-hetim. Jahyuḥ svarāḍ nipāna-khanitram Indra. Sadhryaṅ niyamya yatayo yama-karta-hetim. Jahyuḥ svarāḍ nipāna-khanitram Indra. Niyamya yatayo yama-karta-hetim. Jahyuḥ svarāḍ nipāna-khanitram Indra. Anyone else? Sadhryaṅ niyamya yatayo yama-karta-hetim. Svarāḍ nipāna-khanitram Indra. Sadhryaṅ niyamya yatayo yama-karta-hetim. Jahyuḥ svarāḍ nipāna-khanitram Indra. Anyone else? Ladies? Transliteration, sadhryak, artificial mental speculation or meditation. Niyamya, controlling. Yatayaḥ, the mystics. Yama-karta-hetim, the process of spiritual culture. Jahyuḥ, are given up. Svarāṭ, fully independent. Iva, as. Nipāna, well. Khanitram, trouble for digging. Indra, the controlling demigod supplying rains. In such a transcendental state, there is no need of artificial control of the mind, mental speculation, or meditation as performed by the jñānīs and yogīs. One gives up such processes as the heavenly king, Indra, forgoes the trouble to dig a well. Please repeat. In such a transcendental state, there is no need of artificial control of the mind, mental speculation, or meditation as performed by the jñānīs and yogīs. One gives up such processes as the heavenly king Indra forgoes the trouble to dig a well. Purport. A poor man in want of water digs a well and undertakes the trouble of digging. Similarly, those who are poor in transcendental realization speculate on the mind or meditate by controlling the senses. But they do not know that such control of the senses and achievement of spiritual perfection are simultaneously made possible as soon as one is factually engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Person. the personality of Godhead. It is for this reason that the great liberated souls also desire to be associated in hearing and chanting the activities of the Lord. The example of Indra is very appropriate in this connection. King Indra of heaven is a controlling deity or demigod for arranging clouds and supplying rains in the universe. And as such, he does not have to take the trouble to dig a well for his personal water supply. For him, digging a well for a water supply is simply ludicrous. Similarly, those who are factually engaged in the loving service of the Lord have attained the ultimate goal of life. And for them, there is no need of mental speculation to find out the true nature of God or his activities. Nor do such devotees have to meditate upon the imaginary or real identity of the Lord, because they're factually engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The Lord's pure devotee have already achieved the results of mental speculation and meditation. The real perfection of life is therefore to be engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gena Gena Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Gena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Gum Kuroti Vachalam Lang Pangu Langaite Girim Yat Kita Tanaham Bande Shri Gurum Dirataine. So here Srila Prabhupada is throwing emphasis on the superior nature of prema bhakti. Premanjana charita bhakti vilochanena sandasa deva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam syamasundara machintya guna swarupam govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. That the gopis, they were not concerned with the Vedas and performing great mystic yoga. They're simply concerned about Krishna, who's walking in the forest of Vrindavan, and his feet are so soft that they're in anxiety for his stepping on pebbles and stones in the forest of Vrindavan. And Prabhupada said this is the highest form of love and the goal of human life. So Krishna warns Arjuna, Klesho dikataraste sham, in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that Klesho dikataraste sham avyakta shakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukam dehavadbir avapyate. Arjuna was inquiring, is devotional service to you, is it actually better? Which is better? Just the practice of intellectual speculation to attain the Brahman, the effulgence of the Lord? Or is the bhakti process better? And Krishna warns here that this process of impersonal realization, attaining Brahman realization, first of all, it's incomplete, as Prabhupada says many places. And secondly, klesho is full of miseries, full of anxiety and problems. It's a big struggle because, Prabhupada says here, is actually artificial. It's an artificial way. Actually, Prabhupada said that the soul is always hankering for love. There is abhideya, sambandha, abhideya, and prayojana, that the soul must have a relationship. The nature of the soul is to love. And Prabhupada says, without love, there's no real happiness. You can't be happy. So everyone is looking for love, even here in the material world. Unfortunately, the love is tarnished by the mode of passion. Krishna says, Rajasastu palam dukam, that the fruit of the mode of passion is simply misery. So there's no real love, as Prabhupada would say, no love in the material world. So klesho dikatarastesham avyakta shakta chetasam, they're worshipping the unmanifest Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya, that the universe is false. No, it's not false. Krishna says, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, all the planets come from me. Without any effort, natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate, natachamascha vyadikastra drishyate. That without any effort, Krishna has such unlimited potency. The son of Maharajnanda, he has so much unlimited potency that just by his will, millions and trillions of universes are flowing out of the pores of his plenary expansion, Karanadaksha Vishnu. And within each universe, there's so many millions of species of life, all designed by Krishna's infinite intelligence. So all they're discovering when they discovered the DNA, when they discover the complex nature of the self, of the cell, they're simply discovering Krishna's infinite intelligence. So the impersonalists, they have experienced unhappiness in this world, and they're trying to attain some kind of moksha. So Krishna tells Arjuna later on in the 12th chapter, Maya vesha mano yemam nitya yuktu pasate shradavan pariyopetas teme yuktatamo mataha. That the highest stage of God consciousness, self-realization, is Maya vesha mano yemam, to remember me. And you can't really remember someone unless you have some emotional attraction to them. So Prabhupada gives the example of a woman, and she's doing her household duties, but she has this a relationship with some paramour. And so she's always thinking about that person. In this way, Krishna says in the Gita, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmarayudyacha maya vesha mano yemam. That simply engage in your duties and fix your mind upon me. How do we fix our mind on Krishna? We have to adoshada tata, sadhu sangat tata, bhajana kriya sat tato, narta nivritti sat, tata nishta tato ruchi. You have to have a taste for the holy name of the Lord. Inside the holy name, there is so much nectar. There is so much ananda. Because it's non-different from Krishna. Krishna is Satchit Ananda. And Krishna reveals himself. He says, I reveal myself. Right? Everyone follows my path in all respects. So Krishna gradually, dadami buddhi yogam tam, yena mamupaya. He reveals himself within our hearts. He's revealing himself to us. And slowly this bhakti lata, the creeper of devotional service, becomes more and more stronger and more nourished, and it grows and grows and grows. So the process of devotional service is so much superior, but it's also much easier. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he convinced Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya that Atmaramas Chamunayo, that verse about the Atmaramas, the real Atmaramas are those who are Mamchayo Vabhicharana Bhakti Yogena Sevate Saganan Samatityaitan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate, that those who engage in my pure devotional service without any tarnish of any desire for name or fame or moksha or anything, that person is tasting the highest love of God. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was laughing at Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He said he's simply been eating dry oil cakes, but now he's acting like a little boy. He was having water pastimes with Ramananda Roy at the Virendra Sarovar, at the little ghat near the Gundicha Mandir. and they were splashing each other like little, like teenage boys. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said the Sarvabhauma, he was a logician, and he was the superintendent of the Puri temple. So he's a big intellectual. He's saying, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya met him. He's saying, you took sannyas from a very inferior Bharati, the Bharati Sampradaya. I am Bhattacharya. I'm from a very lofty caste system like this. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu simply listened to him for 7 days as he expounded on Mayavad philosophy, impersonalism. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu slowly but surely crushed his false ego, crushed him. The problem with this impersonalism and what to speak of the mystic yoga system is it only temporarily satisfies the soul. It only temporarily satisfies the soul. The taste of devotional service is not there. It's just like dry oil cakes. We know that Prakashananda Saraswati was also considering that this chanting of the holy name was merely sentimental. That this Gauranga Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was in Varanasi. He's a sentimental sannyasi. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has descended to give us this, this Bhakti Rasamrita, Sindhu, Bindu, the ocean of devotion, the nectar of devotion. And he's empowered Rupa Goswami to write so many literatures on how the inhabitants of Vrindavan experiencing such prema, such love for Krishna, that when Akrura was taking Krishna and Balaram away from Vrindavan, the gopis, some of them even gave up their bodies. When the Brahmins, the caste Brahmins, Tat Karmo Nipano Vipro Mantra Tantra Visharada, they knew all the mantras and tantras, Avaishnavo na Satguru, but they were not devotees. Vaishnavanam Swapacho Guru, even one born in a family of dog eaters. Can you imagine eating dogs? But if he's fortunate to get the dust from the lotus feet of a great devotee of the Lord, if he bathes in that dust, right? Naisamatistava the rukamangring, sprishartanartamango yadarta. That if one bathes in the dust coming from the lotus feet of a great devotee, then even if he's born in the family of dog eaters, he's far superior, and he's the real spiritual master of the world. So this process of impersonalism here is completely inferior, and the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is gradually dissipating. Nirvishesha Shunyavad. Srila Prabhupada, empowered by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they're all lined up to destroy this ubiquitous, this spread of impersonalism. So one time in San Francisco, this hippie put his hand up, and Prabhupada was giving a talk. This was in 68, long time ago, 1968. The hippies were all coming to Prabhupada. Swamiji, I'm God. Prabhupada said, Jai, please accept my humble obeisances, and now you can leave. So, another time someone put their hand up, Prabhupada was giving big lecture of 300-400 people in America. And one person put their hand up, Swamiji, we're God, I am God. And Prabhupada looked at them and said, you are God? He says, you are dog. D-O-G, not G-O-D. So this is very foolish ideas. And here it's described by Sukadeva Goswami
as an artificial control of the mind.
Madhavendra Puri himself, he said, let the scholars of the Vedas, let them go on speculating on the Vedas and all the various literatures in the Vedic literatures, the Puranas, the Upanishads. I simply want to remember the son of Maharaj Nanda, who is herding calves in the courtyard of Maharaj Nanda. This is Madhavendra Puri. He's actually, according to the Ganodesh, Gaura Ganodesh Dipika by Kavi Karnapura, Madhavendra Puri is a Kalpavriksha tree which came from the spiritual world and acted as the root for the tree of Lord Chaitanya. He set the stage for Lord Chaitanya's appearance. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had very great respect for Madhavendra Puri. And it's stated that Madhavendra Puri actually understood the Mahabhav of Srimati Radharani. Very few could understand Radharani's Mahabhav, her feeling of intense separation from Krishna. So these emotions, these spiritual emotions, are available to the devotees of the Lord who are simply licking up the dust from the lotus feet of the great devotees and the great acharyas. Here Prabhupada is saying that Lord Indra, he doesn't need to, dig a well to get water. After all, he's the god of the heavenly planets, and he is the Lord of the weather. He supplies rain. Anad bhavati bhutani parjanyo anasambhavad. Yagya bhavati parjanya yagya karma samudbhava. That by the performance of sacrifice, under Krishna's order, Lord Indra supplies rain. So why should he try to dig a well? It's, Prabhupada said the word ludicrous. It's ludicrous. So similarly, devotees of the Lord who have found themselves in devotional service, even in the beginning stages of sadhana bhakti, Vedi bhakti, beginning stage, one follows the rules and regulations strictly. Even he is tasting such wonderful nectar in the holy name itself. Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. That this holy name is full of nectar. It is, and devotees are simply eager to taste the honey of nectar of the holy name. And always remembering Matchita Madgata Prana Bodhayantas Parasparam. That the devotees of the Lord are always engaged in glorifying Krishna, exchanging pastimes of the Lord's wonderful and adventurous pastimes, the Lord's flute playing. It's described as Krishna flute playing as a nectarine, that it pierces the coverings of our universe. It strikes the Gandharvas with wonder. It breaks the meditation of Sanaka and Sanantana and Sanda, the Kumaras. And it distracts Bali Maharaj, who is sitting in the Patala Loka. It causes Lord Ananta Shesh to move hither and thither while holding up the planets on his head. In this way, the holy name, the playing of Krishna's flute has so much influence throughout the universe. So this flute of Krishna, that's all, the devotees are anxious to hear. Lola Shamai, Samutkanta. Devotees are very enthusiastic and greedy for attaining the vision of Krishna playing on his flute. And Rupa Goswami writes, if you at all want to enjoy material sense gratification, if you want to go and enjoy bhog, Vishendriya samyoga yattat agre mitopamam, tastes like nectar in the beginning, parinama vishameva, but in the end it's like poison. It's like poison, this sense gratification. So if you at all want to enjoy sense gratification and rot in the material world, then don't go to Vrindavan. where along the banks of the Yamuna River, you'll see the Lord playing the flute on the 5th note. And Rupa Goswami writes that this flute of Krishna measures 3 fingers in length, and at each end it's embossed with Indranula gems. It's also inlaid with gold, set ablaze by clusters of diamonds. I don't know the Sanskrit, but Rupa Goswami writes this beautiful poetic description of Krishna's transcendental flute. His flute is so wonderful that when Radharani hears his flute, her body starts to tremble. And one gopi was standing there with Radharani in the forest of Vrindavan, and she was asking Vishaka and Lalita, why is Radharani trembling? Radharani's body was trembling from hearing Krishna's flute playing. And the Vishaka tried to cover up the situation and said, oh, there must be a cold wind blowing. The gopi said, I don't feel any cold wind. In this way, Radharani, just by hearing Krishna's flute playing, her body becomes uncontrollably trembling and shuddering, and her hairs stand on end. So these are given to us by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and Srila Prabhupada. These descriptions are in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the nectar of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. And he's giving us pure explanation of how we can attain these levels of devotional service. Of course, at first, we have to avoid all the offenses, right? Anartha nivritti syat. Get rid of all your material desires. Pretty soon, I think it's either tomorrow or the next day, we're going to celebrate cleansing of the Gundich Mandir. So this represents cleaning our hearts. Cheto darpanam arjanam bhava mahadabhagni nirvapanam. We have to clean our hearts with the mop of the holy name, with the brooms of the holy name. We have to wash the Gundicha Mandir, the Gundicha Mandir of our hearts. We have to wash it. We have to avoid the offenses to the holy name. All 10 offenses: inattentive chanting, committing sinful activities while chanting the holy name. Why? Haridas Thakur says, even if you're chanting with offenses, you become freed from the cycle of birth and death. He told this to a person called Gopal Chakravarti. He was a servant of Govardhan Majumdara and Hiranya Majumdara, the father and uncle of Raghunath Das Goswami. And he was sitting there in assembly at the home of Hiranya Majumdar, here, not very far away, near Panihati. And they're discussing the power of the holy name. And Haridas Thakur says, devotees, they don't care for liberation. They don't care about moksha. The holy name, simply by chanting it even once, with offenses, it relieves you from your all sinful activities more than you could ever commit. Stina surapa mitra drik, brahmaha guru talpaga, Sri Raja Pitrigo Hanta. In the 6th canto, when Ajamil has chanted Narayan, and the Vishnu Dutas have come to deliver him from going down to the hellish planets, this verse is quoted. Stena Suropa Mitra Druk. If you're a thief, if you are taking other people's possessions, if you killed a Brahmin, Guru Talpaga, if you had slept with your guru's wife, my God, sinful. Sri Raja, if you killed a woman or the king of the country, if you murdered a woman or the king of the country, Pitrigo, if you murdered your own father, Gohanta, if you killed a cow. So these are very, very abominable, sinful activities. But they said, if you simply say Narayan once, you're relieved of all these sinful activities that you could have committed for billions of lifetimes. What is the power of this holy name? We have no idea. Nam namakaru bahuda nija sarva shaktis. Krishna is in that holy name with all his potencies, but we can't realize it. It's hard to realize. Anyway, Haridas Thakur is saying simply by a glimpse of the holy name, you get moksha. Just like when the sun, before you see the sun, the light appears on, on the planet, on sunrise. The light's already appeared. So like that, you already attain moksha just by a glimpse of sunlight. But that's not the goal. And Gopal Chakravarti, who is a Mayavadi, he said, if you think it's so easy to get moksha, I think your nose should fall off. Your nose should rot off. And Haridas Thakur, yes, I accept the challenge. If only by chanting this holy name with offenses, one gets moksha. If it's not true, let my nose fall off. Suddenly, Hiranya Majumdar and Govardhan Majumdar and all the assembled devotees there, they got up and Gopal Chakravarti was thrown out of the house and he was fired from his job. He was collecting money as a treasurer for the government. And 2 or 3 days later, he woke up and his nose had melted away, his fingers, he had very beautiful fingers. They'd all melted away with leprosy. Ooh, do not offend the devotees. Do not commit an offense to the Vaishnava. Even the simple devotee who has taken shelter of Lord Krishna, Guru, and the holy name, we should deal very sweetly and nicely with all the devotees, whatever they may be, Kiratu Hunandra Pulinda Pulka Shambira Shamba Yavanaka Shadaya Yene Chapapa Tadapa Shraya Shraya Sudyanti Tasmai Prabhavishnave Namaha. That here Sukadeva Goswami says that even if you're Kirata from the tribals of Africa, they eat humans. Kirata, they're cannibals. Hunandra, Attila the Hun, he wiped out millions of thousands and hundreds and thousands of people across Asia. Attila the Hun, famous, and Genghis Khan, they just wiped out towns and villages, wiped out parts of the Persian Empire, went into Europe, wiped out some of Europe. Who knows? They're just barbarians, as they say. Those from Andhra Pradesh, they're tribals from Andhra Pradesh. Like this, if you're born in a lower situation, 5th class man, 6th class man, but if you get the mercy of a great devotee of the Lord for 1 moment second, a moment of a 1/10 of a second, right? Lava matra. Then you can attain pure love of God. This is the promise of Vedavyas, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This love of God is being made available to us here in Kali Yuga because we're basically Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkash, And we see people from all over the world. In the Purport, Prabhupada mentions that we see that even in Africa, people are becoming pure devotees of the Lord and spreading this mission of the Lord. So, unfortunately, Gopal Chakravarti, he ate the bitter fruit of Vaishnava aparad. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has always said, Trinadapi sunichena turur evasa hishnuna. Amanina manadena kirtaniya sadhari. We have to be very tolerant and very humble and feel ourselves lower than the straw in the street. More tolerant than the tree. The tree is very tolerant. People cut the limbs, it doesn't protest, stands in the heat. There you go, have some mangoes. It's very hot outside. It's giving unlimited mangoes. And people come and pick the mangoes. What did they do for the tree? Nothing. Thank you, bye. Like that. So this is the emphasis that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself set, the example he set,
and the two brothers, Rupa Goswami and his brother Anutam, when they met Lord Chaitanya in Kashi, they put some straw in their mouth and they tied rope around their necks. And this is how they approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Rupa Goswami is actually a Manjari, Rupa Manjari. And here he's being so humble. Sanatana Goswami, another Manjari, coming from the spiritual world. But he's telling Lord Chaitanya, I have no qualifications. People say I'm very aristocratic and I have so much knowledge. But Sanatana Goswami is saying, I have absolutely no knowledge. I don't know what the purpose of my life is. I don't know what the goal of my life is. I don't know who I am. I thought I was a big aristocrat in the Muslim government. He gave it all up. Chatvaturnamashesha mandalapati, Srinam Sada Tuchavat. The six Goswamis gave up all concepts of aristocratic life and just wore some cloth and lived under a different tree every night in Vrindavan, writing beautiful descriptions of pure devotional service. They were empowered by Lord Chaitanya. It says that just as Lord Brahma, his heart was empowered by Supersoul, by Krishna, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye, so it's described by Krishnadas Kaviraj. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered into the heart of Rupa Goswami and empowered him to describe the most esoteric and the most confidential aspect of pure love for Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada one time, he was poking Brahmananda. Brahmananda said, Prabhupada, what does it mean, causeless mercy? What does that mean, causeless mercy? Prabhupada took his walking stick and he poked Brahmananda. He said, here, this is causeless mercy. Take it, take it. Force it. You have no qualifications, but here, you can take this like this. So I said, that is causeless mercy. We have no qualifications, so we have to amanidvam, adambidvam, ahimsa shantir arjavam. Krishna tells Arjuna in the 13th chapter, amanidvam, adambidvam. Beat the mind, you know, make it humble. Give up your pride, false ambitions to become a big man in ISKCON. People bring me Mahaprasadam exactly at 12:30. I have rasgullas. I get the rasgullas. This is not the idea. Gauranga Mahaprabhu himself, he told this Pradyumna Mishra, big high birth Brahmin, Pradyumna Mishra, I know nothing. If you want to know something, you have to go and visit Ramananda Roy. If you want to know about devotional service, don't approach me. You have to speak to Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy is a devotee of Lord Chaitanya. You know, he's a great devotee of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya is God himself. And he's saying, no, you go and take shelter of Ramananda Roy. So this pastime is there. So Gauranga Mahaprabhu always exhibited humility and tolerance. He sat there where people washed their feet in Varanasi with, what's his name? Saraswati. Prakashananda Saraswati. And converted 60,000 of his disciples to pure devotional service. Wherever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went, South India, he converted the Buddhists to pure love of God. He converted so many Shivites and impersonalists to pure love for Krishna. That is the ultimate goal of life. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam, yama-karta-hetim galitam phalam, is the ripened fruit of all Vedic literatures. Karma kanda, jnana kanda, vishera, vishaya bandha. Narottam Das Thakur says that ritualistic activities for fruitive gifts, right? Ishtan bhogani vodeva, dasante yagabhavita, tardatana pradayebhyo yobhangta. Like people worship demigods to get some fruits, some gifts. But here, Krishna is saying, I supply all, I'm empowering the demigods, and ultimately everything comes from Krishna. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exemplified the psychology of a devotee Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami also stated that one who hears my name will lose all results of his pious activities. One who speaks my name will certainly descend to the hellish planets. So this is very humble state of mind. Trinadapi sunechena turur eva sahishnuna. And this is the example of all of Lord Chaitanya's empowered devotees. All of Lord Chaitanya's empowered devotees. In Holland one time, Prabhupada was preaching about chanting Hare Krishna, and they were doing, I think it was a fire sacrifice, and the devotees were fumbling and making mistakes. And there were some hippies there also observing, and Prabhupada was getting a little annoyed with his disciples. They weren't doing it properly. And he was getting upset. And the hippie said, "Why don't you chant Hare Krishna?" And then Prabhupada immediately, yeah, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So he accepted this. He didn't, challenge, like, how dare you? He's very, very humble. And sometimes Prabhupada would ask, people would ask him, "Swami, do you know everything? Are you the great guru?" Prabhupada said, "No, I'm simply a servant. I'm simply your servant." So this is the mentality of the pure devotees of the Lord. They janiyatu-ashu vairagyam jnanam chaya dahoitika. They have no needs, no desires, no aspirations for anything in the material world. Nothing. Zero, right? Anyabilashita shunyam. Everything zero in the material world. Subtle and gross. So I'll stop here. And I'll ask devotees to give comments or questions. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Very wonderful class you give today.
Thank you.
I have two questions in one.
Okay.
One is you say the holy name, we chanted the holy name of the Lord, like you describe so many people like to do sinful activity, the mother, something like that. And Ayamila give only the one name Narayan and complete all sinful activities go away. And as only the holy names you can go to heavens or spiritual world. But we have initiation for one spiritual master. Maybe some devotees have this lucky in the end of life, he chanting Krishna or Narayan, everyone. But some devotee is not lucky and maybe chanting the name of the Guru.
Name of Guru?
Maybe you are disciple of Srila Prabhupada, maybe I disciple of someone, Guru. You can, when you chanting the last second, you dead or left the body, if we chanted the name the Guru, also you can achieve a spiritual world or something like that. This is one question. Second question, you said about everyone looking for love.
Okay, one question at a time.
All right.
So you're asking me that if you chant the name of Guru, you'll go back to Godhead?
Yes, because
Is that the question?
for someone maybe no chance the name of Krishna very high for someone, but for someone it's very easy. But what happens is someone in the end of life chanting, for example, you chant the name of Prabhupada in the life, in the last life. How you expect it? You go to a spiritual world or where?
Well, we know that Krishna promises yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajitayante kalevaram, that if whatever your mind is fixed on at the time of death, that place you'll go in your next life. So if your guru is fully Krishna conscious and he goes to Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan, you'll follow him. However, in the nectar of instructions, Upadeshamrita, in the Purport, Prabhupada mentions that the Guru may not be a Uttama Adhikari. Guru might be Madhyama Adhikari or even Kanishta Adhikari. One can take initiation from Kanishta. Kanishta Adhikari really only sees God in the temple. He doesn't see God in everyone's heart. We know these qualities or compartments of a Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, Uttama Adhikari. So if Kanishta Adhikari, if you think of him at the time of death, well, he may not be going back to the spiritual world. Prabhupada said that you may take initiation from Kanishta Adhikari, but know well that your advancement will be slow. And Prabhupada wanted us to always come to the platform of Madhyam Adhikari, where you realize that in the heart of every living entity there is a super soul, right? In every living entity. And that these living entities are all suffering in this ocean of birth and death. Even if they're born here in Sridham Mayapur, they may be eating fish, they may be smoking. It's not like, oh, you're from India, you must be a Paramahansa. That's what we used to think in the West when we saw someone from India. Oh, you're from India. Jai, Swami, are you Swami? Then we understood that even Kali Yuga, as Prabhupada said, Vedic culture has been compromised in Kali Yuga, even in Bharat. If your spiritual master is very advanced, you go where he goes, if you're thinking of him. One time they asked this question to Prabhupada, will I go back to Godhead if I think of you? And Prabhupada said yes. However, the spiritual master is asking us, you surrender to Krishna. And Krishna is saying, you surrender to Guru, right? That vidi pranipatena. Krishna is saying, you have to accept the bona fide Guru. And then the Guru is saying, you must surrender to Krishna, right? Sarva dharman prityaja, and so on. So the spiritual master, Shakshadari tvena samasta shastriya yuktashtata bhavyate vashadbi, that he is a representative of God, as long as he's following the principles. The spiritual master, Jada Bharat, Maharaj Bharat, he renounced everything, like stool. And he went in the forest. He attained bhava. Bhava is a preliminary stage of Krishna prema. It's a very advanced stage, way past Raganuga Bhakti. There's Raganuga Bhakti, then there's so many different stages. Then you hit bhava. Bhava means you're very attached to Krishna. Your heart, the lotus flower of your heart is opened up, and you're remembering Krishna all day and all night. But somehow the example is, Krishna's using him as an example that, material world is very dangerous. And even you're a very advanced devotee, you better be careful. Be very careful. So the Guru or anyone has to be very careful. Don't play with fire, as they say. We should be very careful not to play with fire. We should always protect ourselves by taking shelter of Upadeshamrita, instructions of Rupa Goswami, the instructions of Krishna, and various instructions given in the scriptures given by Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada said, even on the royal road, there's always danger. Right? Samashritaye padapalava plavam mahatpadam punya yusho. Step by step, there's so much danger in this world we live in. And Maya, she's always, especially when the more serious you become, the more Maya is prabharanatmika. She's going to throw things at you. She has many kinds of, her arsenal. She has an arsenal of weapons. And she's going to shoot her arrows. So we have to protect ourselves very carefully. Mind control, and so on. Samadhamma tapasocham. Mind and sense control is very, very important. Vairagya, renouncing the mind's pushings. That's also vairagya, renouncing the mind's pushings. The mind is constantly pushing, right? Vair eva saduskaram. The wind of the mind is always blowing. Vair eva saduskaram. Very difficult to control the wind. Next question.
Yeah, Prabhu. About you say everyone looking for love, okay? And some spiritual love, you can see the proper example. He always say, my spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, love me, for call to me and do some service. This spiritual love, maybe someone have for the spiritual master, like Prabhupada. And what happened, like you are this Prabhupada disciple, when you have initiation for Prabhupada, you feeling this spiritual love for Prabhupada or only for maybe you find some refuge in spiritual institution? How you take initiation for Prabhupada? You have some spiritual love for Prabhupada, or how you take initiation for Srila Prabhupada? I want to know this only. Please, not coming humble, but speak the truth.
Well, the sincere soul, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona, right? The sincere soul is seeking. As many are looking. What is the solution? What is the real solution? So many of us, we're searching. We're all searching. You know? Kali Yuga, so much hypocrisy. Kalir dosha nide. So I was just a very young guy, 18, 19, and I could see so much suffering. Although I lived in a wealthy country. I lived in the United States, I lived in Canada. Both places, very so-called wealthy country. You know, everything looks good. But I noticed that in my neighborhood, which was a nice neighborhood, no one's very happy. No one's at all happy. They're suffering. There's conflicts. Sometimes their children commit suicide, and they have everything. So, and with a little bit of intelligence, Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishna Sangopanga Yagdai Sankirtane Janti Hi Shume. If you have a little intelligence, start thinking, you know, there's something wrong with this model, this paradigm. You know, the American dream, this paradigm. There's something wrong with it. It looks like a beautiful cake. When you take the slice and you chew on it, it's poisonous. You start dying from this beautiful cake. You know, your body gets sick. So like that, we're looking, and Srila Prabhupada, he told his disciples to go in the streets and chant Hare Krishna. So then, you know, you're trying to give the holy name to lost souls. And they come and, you know, they're representing Prabhupada. So Prabhupada told us, you must go out and chant Hare Krishna in the streets, in the public places. And that's what we did. And then, of course, later on he said, you must distribute my books also, which is nothing but kirtan. So as one associates with devotees, one develops one's faith. One becomes faithful. And then, you know, Krishna is also within the heart. And he's giving you jnana dipena bhashpata. He's giving you the light. Oh, I see. Sattvam sanjayate jnana. You start getting this knowledge that you're not the body and that God is a person. His name is Krishna. You know, and he's got a mother named Mother Yashoda. But it's all transcendental. You know, he's the father, but he's also the son. So these things are revelations from within the heart. And then after some time, the spiritual master is approached and you ask, please accept my bad karma. Please take all my sinful reactions on your head. So I was saying, I shouldn't have taken so many disciples because many times I get sick. Because some of my disciples are falling down and so many problems. in his movement, but he took so much risk to establish this Sankirtan movement. I mean, in the 60s, 70s, the movement exploded in America and these countries. And how did Mayapur manifest? How did Vrindavan manifest? How did Bombay manifest? It was little guys, 24-year-old guys, running around distributing Prabhupada's books all over America and, the West, and every dollar, they said every dollar came to build Sridham Mayapur and Sri Vrindavan. And Prabhupada did this. He engaged these monkeys. He said, "You're white monkeys." He engaged us monkeys and, he empowered us. He empowered devotees to go out there and spread this mission and build the movement. Prabhupada built the movement. Without Prabhupada, there's no question about this movement exploding, So it instills love in your heart. Even many of his disciples may have fallen away. They loved Prabhupada. And they did something for Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, "I will never forget them. I will come back and bring them back to Godhead." Prabhupada said that. He said, "My duty is to bring all of my disciples. I have to come back." I was there in Los Angeles when he said that. And then he said, because this girl, young girl, asked him, "Prabhupada, what if, your disciple falls away?" And Prabhupada said, "The spiritual master, I will come and get you." But he said, "Don't take advantage of this." So it's time to stop, but love is there, and the more we try to please Srila Prabhupada, the more the love manifests itself. We have to keep trying to please Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. First Prabhupada, and then by his grace, Krishna is pleased. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Jai.